Welcome back to Beyond the Buzzer. Our first guest is electric. His influence on basketball will transcend his lifetime. He's had a basketball career in the NBA, in Asia, and Middle East, and he's found himself back working in the NBA now. But you know the deal. Before we tell you who it is, Sam, tell them what they got to do.
Make sure you guys follow us on Beyond the Buzzer, Pod 13, Instagram, YouTube, and all podcast applications. Let's go, baby. Let's get it.
Introduce him, Sam.
Now, I want you guys to meet my boy, my man, the one and only Shamgod. What's up, baby? How you doing?
Sam, how y'all doing, man? How's everybody doing up there?
We're doing good, Mr. New York himself.
Oh man, just blessed, man. Just blessed, man. Just working, just grinding.
You got no idea how happy I am to have you on this show. You meant a lot to me throughout my whole career, especially the time when I was in China. But, a lot of people out here, a lot of youngsters in the Middle East don't know who really Sham is. So I want you to take that time to tell us who Sham is and how Sham ended up where he's at today.
Man, I started off, from Brooklyn, moved to Harlem, fell in love with street basketball, like Rucker Park, the great players like Future, Malloy, Master Rob, Dancing Doogie, all these famous names. That was kind of like the thing that kind of birthed the and one thing,
Right.
these people. And then besides that, growing up in high school, learning from the great Tiny Archibald, who's top 50 greatest players in the NBA. He was my junior high school coach. To going to ABCD, meeting a great person, for his untimely demise that became one of my friends, my closest friends for the last 25 years. The great Kobe Bryant, worked with him on his handle, dribbling and stuff like that. So, after that, it just became like a legacy of his own. High school, played McDonald's All-American with some of the greatest players ever: Kevin Garnett, Vince Carter, Paul Pierce, Stephon Marbury, Antoine Jameson, Ron Mercer, just to name a few. And then, from there, just, went on, played 2 years of college, got drafted to the Washington Wizards, played 2 years at Herb, then went to China for a couple of years where me and you crossed paths, and just,
Right.
just a legacy and a lifelong of basketball.
Man, but New York, man, like not too many people know what Sham God means to New York. You know what I mean? Like, tell me more about New York. Why are you guys so famous for point guards, man? Like, I know I grew up in California, San Diego, LA area, but when we always spoke about New York, we knew that's where the best point guards were. What is it about you guys in New York?
New York is just about, like I said, it's about hard work. It's about determination. We don't have that many other sports but basketball.
Right.
And, growing up in the time where New York was like number one in everything, fashion. I grew up with great artists like Mace, Cameron, JayZ, Fat Joe, um, Jim Jones, a couple of, people like that, Puff Daddy. And New York is just so rich and just ball handlers. We don't birth a lot of big men, a lot of 7-footers. We wasn't really playing baseball, wasn't playing football. So the only thing we had was basketball at that time. And, if anybody be in New York, everything is about dribbling, everything is about flash, everything is about hard work. And I think that's why we became the mecca of basketball.
The first time I knew I was actually good at basketball, I played a pickup game at Rucker Park, and there were people watching in the crowd, and they started giving me nicknames, and I realized if you can make it at Rucker, then khalas, you're nice. You can consider yourself a hooper.
Yeah, like New York is one of them places, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. That's the saying that everybody say. But it's just so rich, like I said, in basketball because of, you had people like Tiny Archibald, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
Right.
that came before us. Bob Cousy back in the day, stuff like that. So, it's just things like that I think why New York is so big, when it comes to sports. And we like the mecca of Madison Square Garden is like the mecca of basketball.
Right.
And New York is just so built on entertainment and showmanship.
For sure.
That's for sure, man. You touched on a lot of great names. That class that you came out with, these names are unbelievable. and your path took you to the NBA. Tell us more about the NBA experience you had.
I came up in the time where people wasn't like going hardship and things like that. So I came in the NBA when Michael Jordan was still in the NBA. The big man was everything. You know, you kind of got shunned at if you dribbled a lot and stuff like that because you had big men like Patrick Ewing, Shaquille O'Neal, David Robinson, Team Elijah, one of the great big men of any era, and which is understandably so. But when you come from New York, you you learn to look ahead and look into the future. And me growing up, the style that we played, I would like to say was in the future. Like a lot of people like to say I was before my time. And and for me to be irrelevant 25 years later, 30 years later is amazing, a humbling feeling. But it's also due to because everybody that play now play like I played 25 years ago. So
Right,
I
right.
think that's the connection between me and the new generation.
Yeah, I think what's incredible to see, like I said, your influence on basketball is going to transcend your lifetime. There are already so many players that do so many things that you did, but I gotta ask a question. You played in the NBA back then. You're involved in the NBA now. Please don't tell me you're one of these, Michael Jordan's the GOAT. Because for me, you sit and you watch, and I just watch LeBron play, and I think there's just nothing ever going to be like LeBron.
Stop. You see this guy right here. Kobe Bryant is.
I got Kobe sixes tatted on my
Come on
arms.
now.
I love Kobe, but LeBron's got to take my vote. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say, like for me, Michael Jordan is the GOAT, and I would say Kobe is second, and I would say LeBron is the best. I would say
I like
LeBron is
that.
the best business basketball player ever. Kind
I
of like
agree.
if you look at Floyd Mayweather. See, for me, things go in certain ways. For me, like the GOAT can mean a lot of things. It just depends on wherever you come up in and what do you consider the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? Is the GOAT making money? Is the GOAT making championships? Is the GOAT is just being a player? You know what I'm
That's
saying?
that's
And if you
fair.
look at, it's like I grew up with Stephon Marbury, and like, some people say, "Oh, Stephon Marbury is the best point guard to come out of New York." And skill wise, I would agree, you know. But then if you look at Kenny Anderson is probably the most impactful point guard
True.
to come out of New York, and like if you look at uh with me, like my era with me and Steph growing up, I would still say Steph is the best point guard. There's no knocking that. And then I would also say, but if you look at it, if you're saying most impactful, I would say right now I'm in the place of where Kenny Anderson was when I was growing up. For kids that come up now,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
So when I look at basketball, I look at basketball and through that lens. You know what I'm
No, I
saying?
think
Because
yeah, I think that's fully fair.
because if you look at Jordan's like final six times MVP, never lost, never went to a game seven. That right there is something totally, totally, totally different. I would think if you look at when it comes to Kobe was skill wise to me was better than Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I
He
think
dribbled better, shot the three better, stuff like that. And I would think none of them, him or LeBron, had to go through what Kobe went through. So, you know what I'm saying?
Tell us more about that.
None of them never played with somebody that was just as dominant as them, but was the lead at that time. If you think about it, you know what I'm saying? Like Kobe had to fight for that, whether it's with Shaq, whether it was whoever. Like, and you can also make a case for LeBron to where Jordan never went through the scrutiny that LeBron would have to go through growing up.
LeBron at 18 years old got the chosen one tatted on him. You know what I'm saying? And had
Yeah.
cameras on him from the young age. So this is where I agree with you a
So
little
it's
bit.
like so it's all about how you look at, it's all like what lens you look at it from. Like some people say, oh, Steph Curry is the best point guard. Okay, and then there's some people that say, well, he's not a point guard. So
That's
it's all
fair.
about what you define as a point guard in this era or the era I came up in.
No,
And it's not about really like being an old guy hating or thinking stuff like that. It's just more about what you consider what is what. It's like Do you like vanilla ice cream better or chocolate ice cream better? It's just all about what you prefer better.
Fair enough. So you know what? I think that's a very articulate way of saying things. But if we're not gonna, let's say, find a common ground on that one, what we think we can agree on is that you now are, you're a player development coach for the Mavericks. You're working with arguably two of the most talented offensive players, maybe of all time, right? With Luka and Kyrie. So Sam and I would love you to sort of give us an inside feedback into what it's like working with guys like that every day.
I mean, for me, it's just a humbling feeling because, like I said, these are arguably two of the greatest point guards that probably will ever play basketball eventually. And just to have any input in their careers is a humbling, amazing feeling. And for them to even look at me and want advice from me is an amazing thing. But just watching the way they work every day, because they're different. They're two different entities, but to watch the skill set, one is size and force and one is speed and skill. So just to watch both of them every day go to work, and see, things that you could do, things that Kyrie do, they both have the it factor, meaning that when the game is at the biggest and the lights is shining bright, they both deliver, at all times. So, just being a part of that is an amazing thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely can't imagine.
Right. Sham, tell me a little bit more about your overseas experience. After 2 years in the NBA, you decided to take your talent to overseas. Tell me more about that decision when you decided to go overseas, and tell me what overseas basketball did for you.
I mean, for me, it was a decision about should I play CBA, should I play overseas? And then when I got overseas, I got so comfortable and I was making a good living and I was meeting great players, great people like you, like one is you yourself. And, I was being, at that time, I was being accepted for being me and for being this player that was 25 years too early for the NBA.
Right.
And at that time, that's what it meant to me. Like basketball meant so much to me. It was more about me being able to play free and me being able to play how I wanted to play. And, me being leaving school at 19 and not being I don't want to say not mature, but not knowing the business of basketball.
Right.
As a kid's way, like, okay, if you go on practice, you do work, you're going to play. If you do this, you're going to play. Then when I got in the NBA, it was more about the business of basketball and understanding, wait your turn and stuff like that, things that I've never had to do. And when I went overseas, it was just more of a freedom of a basketball that I felt my whole life. So then it helped me get so comfortable. And once I got comfortable, that there was no looking back for me. And, if I could do it all over again, I'd probably do the same thing because, like, where I'm at in life now and how things are rolling out and what God has put in front of me in my life, I wouldn't change that for the world.
It's funny. It's so nice to hear you say that because I heard you on the Knuckleheads podcast and you were saying how you thought maybe if you'd stayed one more year in college, you would have had a better draft pick because I think it was Mike Bibby that went as the first guard in that following year. So to hear you then have come full circle and be like, you know what, no, maybe I would have had a better NBA career, but actually I got to travel the world, played in China. Crazy enough, you and I played for the same team, obviously 25 years apart. And Sam was telling me you were actually, I think, one of the first, if not the first, player in Saudi to get paid on a full year contract despite only a 7-month season.
Exactly, because they didn't want to lose him. I remember that.
Like I was the thing is I was the first player from the United States to do a lot of things, right? So like when I first went to China, they wasn't taking guards.
I remember that.
They was only taking big men.
Right.
They wouldn't take a guard. Even when I went over there, they brought me there on the tryout.
No way.
And they was like, hey, let's see what he could do. And then we played against like 3 USA teams, and I had like 35 each game. And then it was like, and they still wasn't like locked in. They still was like, well, we'll see how this month go. And then after that, then I just got so big in China, and people like the way I play because of the way I play. And I've always like reached out to any community that I played in. Like any basketball community I played in, I always try to put myself as part of the community, not bigger than the community. And yeah, like when I was on Knuckleheads and I was saying about if I stayed one more year, yeah, I could have been the top 5 pick the next year, the first guard. But I could have also messed it up. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people that played 20 years that's nowhere where I'm at, like far as name wise or playing wise, or the impact to the culture. So, God, He made things work out how it's supposed to work out. So I don't never doubt that or look back on that. It's always when you ask questions, you play what if, what if, what if. But in all terms, I'm a firm believer of my faith. So like everything happened was supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen. Because like even when I play, I didn't have a shoe. Now I'm not playing. I had 2 shoes that sold out. So like, it's like who would have thunk that type of stuff. So, but like Sam was saying, like when I got to China, they wasn't really paying guards. Then when I got to Saudi, they wasn't really paying guards. And then I did so good in Saudi, I was the first person ever to get a contract to not play some other place. So I was getting paid. I was getting paid like I was in the NBA. Like I was getting paid on a 12-month scale, but only playing 6 months.
Man, I remember that because I looked up to you, Sham. Like, I loved your game. And I remember when I first got to play against you when you were on the Saudi team, we were playing the Arab Championship. And I was like, man, I finally get to play against Sham. I get to watch him play. I mean, it was such an humbling experience. And then when I go to China, the team that I go to, I remember you were injured, you hurt your knee, you were doing your rehab. And then you kind of like paved the path for me, the path for me. And you were able to help me out, guide me through the whole experience. So tell me a little bit more about the China experience because you were rehabbing your knee. And at the same time, they're like, yo, you're here anyways. Go ahead and coach our junior team, under 14 team. You were coaching all the young guys at the same time.
Yeah, for me, like I said, when I got to China, like you said, as you know, when I got injured in China. But for me, basketball was always for me to give back and always push the culture forward. And when I got to China, as you know, whether I was the best player or tailing out, I always was the same person. So I think that's why I get the love I get because no matter if somebody was my competitor or I competed against somebody, it always was respect, it always was love, it always was me just trying to push the game forward, because when I was growing up, like I said, I met a guy named Tiny Archibald when I was in the 8th grade, not knowing who he was.
I was gonna say, you gotta tell everyone that you didn't know who he was.
Yeah, not knowing. I thought he was just a janitor at my school. And he was trying to tell me about basketball. And I was like, man, what the hell is this old guy talking about? And then he became my mentor. And then later on, of course, I found out he's top 50 greatest players ever. And he's the only point guard to ever lead the league in scoring and assists in the same year, even to this day. So that's a 40-year record, and he's still the only person to ever do that. So, mad respect and shout out to Tiny Archibald. But like I said, it was always for me to push the culture forward because that's how people taught me to always give back and always stay humble and always let your game do the talking instead of you doing the talking. And when I got to China, everybody was so amazed at the way I dribble and things like that because they haven't seen stuff like that at that point. And it just opened up another way for basketball. Because even like, it's funny because I remember I was in LA and I saw Steph in the hotel in LA. I was going to the Lakers championship game and Steph was like, yeah, I'm about to go to France or Turkey, somewhere. And I was like, nah, I was like, I'm telling you. I was like, yo, you need to go to China. I was like, you need to go to China. They will love you. Because at this point, that's when AI went somewhere overseas and it wasn't working out.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, and it didn't go right. And I was like, yo, if you go to China, they're going to want you to be Stephon Marbury, so you ain't going to have to worry about it. Like, I think wherever AI went, it was like Ricky Rubio was there. It was when Brandon Jennings was there, he was there. Ricky Rubio, different stuff. So I was like, yo, you're not gonna have to worry about that in China. They're gonna want you to be who you are. And he decided to go to China, and the rest is history.
See, not too many people know that you are.
Just always being a pioneer.
Yeah, but not too many people know that. And I remember I was talking to Aboudi about it. I told him the reason Steph is in China is because of Sham. Yeah. Sham is the one who opened the door. Sham is the one who put him on. Yeah. And Sham is like basically that guided him through that. You know what I mean? And Steph will never talk about that.
Yeah, you got to think. After I went to China, you got to look who came behind me. It was like Steph, Steve Francis, a lot of American point guards after that. Before me, you can't name American point guards that was there.
I agree. Yeah. That year when I played there, and I remember you were helping throughout the season, and you had to stay aggressive, and I thank you for that. Good looking out. I mean, I had a phenomenal year through, you know what I mean, thanks to you. Yeah. All top point guards were there. I remember every night I had to guard an ex-NBA dude, almost every night.
Nah, it was like I said, China was more like, China was good because everything was basically like family. Like when you went to the other Americans' city, you would do stuff with them and things like that. So, because there wasn't too many Americans on one team, so when you got to the other team and saw the other person, you was just so happy to see another American that you could talk to, or somebody that spoke English. So, you know, whether they was from, you know, the Middle East or whatever, like Sam and stuff like that. It was like just all love. And no matter, anytime I saw Sam, it was just all love. It was like brotherhood. It was like friendship.
Yeah. So you touched upon a couple times throughout this podcast so far, like, you know, the way I dribble or the way I play. Sham, how the fuck did you invent a move? You are the only player in the literal history of basketball to have a move named after you.
Man, it's something that started by accident, and then I used to watch film so much. So I used to watch film of my game, other dribblers' games like Kenny Anderson, Pearl Washington, Isaiah Thomas, Kevin Johnson, you name it. I used to always watch film. But what I used to do is I used to always watch film in slow motion, so I could see people's footwork, see people. And then I used to wear 2-pound ankle weights on my wrist, so I could get faster, like naturally. And like I said, when you put that much time in dribbling, like things just happen. You know what I'm saying? It's like Jordan ain't set out to do fadeaways, but when you do that much time, you put in the work, things happen. And like it happened by accident, and then we just kept doing it. I kept practicing after that. Like, man, this could work. And then after that, it just took on a life of its own. And it's so funny. It's so funny because, you know, like in New York, I have done so many moves that people always laugh and be like, man, that's the move everybody knew you from. And I'll be like, yeah. And it's so weird because it's like, it might not be top 5 moves that I ever done. And it's like the weirdest thing, but it's like one of the most humblingest thing. So it's kind of like when 50 Cent said, no matter what records I make, all the records I make, they could be big records. Everybody always want to hear in the club.
Yep.
Right.
So it's like, so like for me, it's like the same thing. It's like one of those things where it's like, no matter how many moves I do, everybody loves that move. And it's like I said, it's the best thing I like about it is because it happened organically. Before that happened, I've never been somewhere and say, hey, I'm going to do the Shamgod. Hey, I'm going to do this. Hey, I'm going to do that. It just happened organically. So that's why I like it so much, because, you know, that means it came from God and not me. So it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I love what you say about you having so many moves, because I watched that N1 documentary on Netflix, and about how N1, even though now, I mean, kids these days don't really know about how influential you and a bunch of those other players were. Like, you see so much of that street ball era in the NBA today, and maybe people won't really appreciate that, but like, you know, maybe basketball players don't appreciate it, but hoopers do, right? And anyone who really understands the culture of basketball really knows the influence you have on the game.
Yeah, and you know, for me, it's like, like, and the reason why I keep saying humbling, because it's like, you got to think about it, like you said, played 2 years in the NBA, and to be more known than people that played 20 years in the NBA. But then also, we all get into jobs. Whatever job you ever career you get into, you always get into it to make it better than how you found it. And the one thing with me, when I leave this place, the Shamgod will live on longer than me. So, because there's a kid born every day that their parent is by the time they learn how to play basketball, their parent is like, hey, you got to learn how to do the Shamgod. So that would be here way longer than me. But the most amazing thing about it is, I also know, because me being a part of Dallas Mavericks, me being around great players like Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, Harrison Barnes, Kyrie Irving, things like that, I also know at the same time that I will leave basketball better than how I found it. And not too many people can say that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's the most amazing thing to me that people really don't recognize all the time, and why I'm so humble, because, like I said, you get into stuff in life to make it better than how you found it. And I know this is a million people play basketball. This is a trillion billion corporation, and I know I'm living proof that I know that I found it, that I left it better than how I found it. And for me, most people, most people die and their family hear about their inspiration. Me, I get to live in my inspiration every day, because when when somebody do moves and certain things, because of the opportunity I have with Dallas Mavericks, commentators is right there and they're like, oh, he did the Shamgod, and Shamgod's right there coaching with the Dallas Mavericks. So I get to live in my inspiration every day.
So can we actually dive into that? So one of the things Sam and I really want to articulate with this podcast is, again, it's the part outside of basketball, right? So you found a career outside of your playing career and now coaching. Does the NBA do enough for former players where they can sort of seamlessly come into coaching roles? Did you get it because of, relationships you had in Dallas? Was it something you sought out? Walk us through that process, and if you think the NBA is doing enough work in that sense.
The NBA is so many players that come along. So the NBA is trying to do their best, but you also gotta have an owner that's like a maverick. And I mean that in the literal term. Like, Marc Cuban is a maverick. Like, he's ahead of his time when it comes. He's ahead of his time when it comes to things. Even when he bought the team, the way he treat everybody, the way he treats players, the way people look at him, and he saw something in me. Of course, I interviewed for a couple of teams, and a couple of teams like, hey, we'll get back to you. We're gonna let you know. And Marc, from day one, was like, hey, you want to come? I got you. You're gonna be here. We're gonna do. I'm gonna push this forward. I love what you do. I love what you stand for. Things like that. And that's the type of ownership you need. That's the type of people you need around you. That's gonna help you going to the next stage of your life and your career. And like I said, Dallas, they could have picked anybody. He picked me because of my relationship with players, because of my outside ability, not just basketball ability. Being able to, talk to the players, talk to kids, tell them about my journey and share my journey. Like Sam touched on earlier, being able to talk to other players and helping them through stuff, even when you think the little stuff that you're saying, you don't think it's helping that much, but then later on in life, you see that it helped them so much by dropping little gems on them about what they could do better, how they could be better, and things like that. And, for me, I think that's more of my gift in life, even more than basketball, is being able to relate to players, being able to talk to players, being able to help players tap into their own greatness.
Sham, you touched on Marc Cuban, but you also are very tight with JayZ. Tell me about that relationship having JayZ and Marc Cuban back you up as off the court? How did they help you be successful off the court?
Like I said, like it's funny because I have two relationship with two big iconic people that have big, that the world look at as big personalities, big people. And you know, the thing is, it's a little different from with Mark because I knew Jay Z when he first started rapping. You know what I'm saying? Just like he knew me when I first started playing basketball. So that relationship is like so organic. And then OG Juan, his partner, Ron Perez, I used to live with him, when I was young. So like that relationship between me and Rock Nation is family. Like it's bigger than basketball. It's bigger than anything. And just being around Jay Z and getting like jewels from him and knowledge from him and Juan and Emory Jones, just about life, just about transitioning into something else besides just a basketball player, about being about your business, being about how to carry yourself, being about how the world can respect you, and you don't have to do anything out of the norm or try to be something else, but only be yourself. And so that relationship with Jay Z is an amazing relationship. And Emory Jones, that's my relationship. Even like with Puma, Puma is a company about the people. They're more about the people than just selling product. That's no knock on no other brand, but that's how me and Puma came into this, is because we both had great ideas about the community. They wanted to tap into New York, and Emory Jones and Rock Nation was like, "Hey, you should talk to Sham." I talked to them for a while because I was just supposed to give them advice about like what kids to sign, what things like that. And after we got finished talking, they just came back like, "Man, we should sign you. Like everything, you should be in the basket. Like everything lines up." And from that conversation right there, we got a 6 years relationship, 6 years and counting relationship where I done had two shoes that sold out, which is which is an amazing feeling within itself. And then on my last
Right.
shoe, they also had sweatsuits and clothes that sold out. And I think it's that way because, like, Sam probably could attest to it more. Like, I've always been a man of the people, so everybody's on the same journey with me. I've never been a person where, everybody's seen me grow up, whether it's overseas, whether it's in the United States. Everybody that ever came in contact with me, whether it's Sam, whether it's anybody, whether it was people on Itihad Club, whether it's people on Wanma in China, they always felt a part of me. I've never been bigger than the situation I've ever been in. I've always been a part of the situations I've been in.
So you touched upon it kind of briefly at the beginning of the show, but we want to dive into one more person you had, a very special relationship with. In his words, you taught him how to dribble. Obviously, an icon for both myself and Sam as well. The late great Kobe Bryant. Walk us through, what it was like, not only working with him in the basketball sense, but also, everyone knows him as Black Mamba, killer, maybe author, father. But if there was one thing you could tell people about him that maybe isn't as known, what would that be?
I would say people don't understand. Like, I know he gets the mumber stuff like that, killer instinct, killer this, but people don't understand how generous and how funny Kobe was at the same time. Like, he was just a good dude. Like, once you got through those layers with him, he was such a good dude. Like, the person they saw at the end, with his daughter and stuff, that's the person I've known my whole life. You know what I'm saying? When I first met him. You know what I'm saying? He was just always a great ambassador. The way you see him with the USA women and things like that, that's who he is, and that's who I know. And, of course, everybody got another personality when they get on the court and stuff like that. But I've always known him to be that person, like generous, funny. I remember, it's so funny because, like, I told the story before about how I met him and he thought he was, Jordan, walk like Jordan, come like Jordan, and stuff like that. But this, like Kobe was so locked in. I remember when I was, this is 25 years later. And he calls me and he's like, hey, I want you to come train my daughter. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, yeah, let me figure some things out and put some stuff together, and we could do it. So then he's like, all right, cool. So I go out to train his daughter. She has the same personality and drive as him, which was like one of the most like amazing things I ever seen in my life. I was like, man,
I'm getting the chills listening to this one.
I remember, I never told anybody this, but I remember like Kobe was like, hey, I want you to, teach her how to dribble. And I was like, it was her and God bless the other girls that passed away in the untimely demise. So he was like, hey, I want.
Can you repeat that again?
I said, so he stuff with her. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I get there, I'm doing some stuff with her and the other girls. And it's like 45 minutes in. And I'm like, all right, cool. We could we could do some layups, we could do some other stuff. We're gonna do this. I'm in like whole player development mode.
Right.
And he's like, nah, I just want you to teach them how to dribble. I'll do the rest. I'm like, okay. I said, well, we can come back tomorrow. He's like, nah, we not done. We got the session is for 2 hours. So I said, Cole, you want me to teach them how to dribble for two hours? but this is 2 hours straight.
Oh my
God. I'm like, okay. But then his daughter is like, yes, come on. You got some more stuff. And I'm sitting there like, I've done stuff with NBA players that after 30 minutes they're cooked.
My gosh, amazing.
And so then like, all right, so we do the 2 hours, we stop, right? So then he says, it was like, I think it was like 10 to 12. And then he comes back and he says, he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna be back 4 to 6. And I'm like, okay, what you want me to do? He was like, no, I still want you to do the dribbling and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
So I was there, we were doing 2 days of that.
Just dribbling.
Yes.
That showed you. He just knows what he wants when it comes down to Kobe. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, honestly.
Yeah.
That was a rough one.
So it was like that's the drive and determination that she had at that young age for just to want to keep doing it.
Right.
That's the point I'm getting at. Like her drive was just like his.
That's crazy.
Sham, as of today, what drives you to do more? Like, what's next for Sham? What is Sham working on? Are we talking about Sham is trying to be an NBA head coach? Is Sham working on a lot of things within the community? I know you're involved in you sponsor a lot of AAU teams in New York. So what is Sham? What's going on with Sham?
For me, it's just like to try to do everything I could possibly do in basketball, and then also at the same time have, like the Shamgod Academy when it's over and said and done to leave behind. But like me, I'm just going wherever God takes me. But like I said, anything in basketball, I'm trying to hit every milestone I could possibly hit in basketball, and hopefully, inshallah, God, find a way to make things happen for me, so I can hit every mark I want to hit. Like I said, I just want to leave a legacy, and whatever he feels for me, I just want to make sure I'm prepared and ready for it when it comes.
100%. Sham, so the last question we like to ask all of our guests, and I think for you it's particularly relevant, right? We've spoken about you having some incredible role models in Marc Cuban, JayZ, close friendship with Kobe Bryant. If you could, knowing that the premise of this podcast is to help athletes think about life beyond the sport, if you could give our listeners, one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say never let your talent outshine who you are.
Wow.
That's
I love that statement.
Yeah, wow, that's a good
And
one.
I say that humbly because a lot of people, they act on what their talent is to identify who they are, and they don't understand. They will, God willing, they will live way longer than any talent that they have. So don't ever let your talent outshine who you are.
That is extremely profound. That is an amazing way to end the episode. Sham, we can't thank you enough. Our first guest. We're excited to release this. And we're excited to catch you in Dubai as well. Like we said, we'll both be there at the beginning of October, so we'll make sure to link up there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I said, send me your info and then we can chat it up when I get over there.
I appreciate you, brother, man. You have no idea how I'm happy to talk to you. Can't wait to see you in Dubai, man. And hopefully big projects coming between me and you.
All right, we'll chop it up when we get there.
I appreciate you, brother. Have a good one, brother.
Thank you, Sham.
Have a good one.
What a way to kick off our guest list. What an amazing episode. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Sam, tell them what they got to do one more time.
Make sure you follow us Beyond the Buzzer, Pod 13, Instagram, YouTube, and all the podcast applications. We out.